I'm here with Scott Walker. Please state your name.
My name is Scott Walker.
And do you care if we use your name in the...
No, that's fine. You can use my name.
What programs were you in?
Initially, the first program I was ever in was Luther Child Center in Everett. I went in there when I was 11 years old. And I came out when I was about 12 and a half, almost 13. Came from an abusive home. My mom didn't want me. I was the only child of 5 children ever to get a hand laid on them, at least like I got it. I mean, I'm sure she smacked my brothers or my sisters at some point in time, but never like what she did to me. And my father tried killing me. My stepfather beat me to a pulp to the point of being unrecognizable. And the counselors or the psychiatrist that I saw when in Luther Child Center told my mom that I was just a kid who needed a lot of attention, that I was just a kid who was starved for love, and if I'd have been the only child, then she would have had less issues. Well, being a child who just wants to be loved, I don't see anything wrong with that, you know.
Right.
I had an older brother that would get into trouble and then lie and blame me, and I'd end up getting punished for it. And even later on, when it was found out that he was the one that actually did it, he was never punished. Because that was Mom's love child. I mean, his dad died when he was young and in prison, and my mom was totally head over heels in love with him. So nothing was ever going to happen to Ronnie. So I got tired of taking all the beatings from my mom, and I used to run away all the time. I used to run away to my grandparents. And my mom got fed up with it and had me declared incorrigible, is what they used to call it back then.
Right.
And put me into Luther Child Center. Got in there. They had a guy named Bill France, who was one of the counselors, or one of the psychiatrists there. And this guy is supposed to be taking care of you. And I remember one time, I didn't want to listen anymore because he was basically just putting me down so bad I was tired of it. I was sitting in a chair in a room right across from him. I got up to leave. He slammed my head. He kicked me and then slammed my head between the door and the door frame.
Oh my God.
And I went right straight to the ground. He grabbed me by my shirt, threw me back in the chair, and made me sit there and listen. That was my first experience of being physically abused in a boys' home situation. Now, that was the only time I was ever handled like that when I was in the boys in Luther Child Center. There was a counselor there by the name of Ben Hamilton. It was the first time in my life I'd ever seen an African American. I was scared to death because he was the blackest man I'd ever seen in my life, even to this day. So here I was, a child who came from a small community. I didn't even know black people existed, and he wailed on me a couple times with a paddle. Other than that, I never saw any other counselors there do anything to anybody. But I didn't seem to attract it, you know. I was a defiant kid. If you pushed me, I fought back because I'd done nothing but take abuse since the day I was born.
Right.
My father tried killing me. My father was put in Northern State Hospital Mental Center because of trying to kill me. My mom beat me all the time. My mother was a mental, what do you call them, psych nurse at Northern State.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and she used to knock me around and shit. So, I mean, to me it became commonplace, but I had just got to the point where I was tired of getting it, and I fought back. Well, nobody wanted you to fight back.
Right.
You know? I mean, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to just take it and turn around and walk away and act like nothing happened. Well, I was a big kid. I was always bigger than everybody else, you know. And I just had enough. I'd had it in me that I wasn't going to take it anymore. Well, I had a bad enough temper that I would fight a full-grown adult. I didn't care. If you were going to hit me, I was going to hit back.
Right.
Well, I got hepatitis while I was in there. There was a kid named Corey Failer, came back from home visit, had hepatitis. Like 5 different people ended up catching it.
Oh, Oh, no. So they let me out of there. I went home with my mom. My father tried killing me. My father was put in Northern State Hospital Mental Center because of trying to kill me. He was the blackest man I'd ever seen in my life, even to this day. So here I was, a child who came from a small community. I didn't even know black people existed. You know,
Oh, I wasn't home that long after I got well, and she shipped me out to Skagit Group Ranch Home, where I took a lot of abuse. Now, you have to keep in mind, a lot of the abuse that I took as a kid was also because of the fact that I wet the bed. I wet the bed till I was 13 years old. And the reason being is I had, which was found out later when I was in Flying H Boys Ranch, so I can get to that later, but I had a bladder the size of a 50-cent piece.
Wow.
So I didn't hold any fluid. So, back in the 60s and early 70s, it was you were lazy, is what it was. There was never a medical explanation for it. And so, I had a lot of shame from that. I was in a lot of fights and stuff because of it, having to defend myself. And when I got into Skagit Group Ranch Home, the head house parent, Stan Slater, his wife took a liking to me, but Stan was he was probably in his late 60s, mid 60s when I met him. He was just a tough old woodsman and stuff, he figured he was going to beat it out of me. So he stuck me in the living room in the front of the house on Borseth with 14 other boys and let them pummel me.
Oh, wow.
And I fought back the whole time until they beat me into the ground, figuring that would humiliate me enough to stop wetting the bed. Well, the only reason the fight stopped was because his wife happened to come in and see what was going on, and she started screaming and yelling at him and knocking people out of the way and drugged me out of it. But I was unconscious by the time they got done with me. I was unable to move for a couple of days. That didn't stop anything. I still ended up taking abuse. Boys' home seemed to encourage bullying, I was in fights all the time, trying to defend myself. And I didn't care. Even if I knew if I was going to lose, I was not going to get pushed around.
Right.
And I pretty much took on the biggest and the baddest, and the only way you were going to beat me was to kill me.
Yeah.
And I got out of Skagit Group Ranch Home. My mom sent me to live with my birth father down in Portland. Well, he was abusive again. I had never lived with him since I was a little kid, since I was 5. And he was just as abusive when I got down there. And he was supposed to bring me back to my mom's house. My mom happened to be at work. And since she wasn't home, he took me to the juvenile detention center.
Oh, wow.
And put me there in Port Orchard. I spent 160 days in there. Hadn't done anything wrong. I broke no laws, no nothing. Spent 160 days in there. He lied to the courts and stuff about me. They wouldn't let me go home with my mom. I ended up getting put into Flying H Boys Ranch.
What year was that?
1974. 1974.
That's the year after I was born.
Yeah. I was there, let's see, I want to say 3 days. Yeah, 3 days. We went to church on Sunday. I had covered up my bed and stuff. But we went to church Sunday night. And during the daytime, while we were at church, they had pulled the sheets off my bed. They lined up the guys, the other boys, between the lodge and the cabins, and made me walk from the cabins up to the lodge, past all these guys, with the sheet over my head.
Wow. From
my wet bed. I was so angry and so humiliated, I took off. I ran away. I got mad. And from the lodge to the road is, almost a half mile.
Yeah.
Got on the Natchez Highway and or Chinook Pass Highway, whatever you want to call it, and got down. It was a few miles down the road. It was an old broke down bridge that I can't ever remember the name of what they called it. I only asked once, I think, but George Madison, one of the assistant director, he managed to find me. He pulled up in his station wagon and found me. They brought me back, marched me upstairs. You go down this long hallway past a couple of offices on the left, all the way down to the end to Reverend Hires' office. They'll sit right square in the room, show he's the dominant figure. Big window behind him. He has 2 house parents holding on to me while he beats me with a wooden paddle.
Wow.
I got beat from my legs up to my head. This kind of crap went on often because of the fact that when they would physically assault me, I'd fight back. And you weren't supposed to fight back. Or they would put me down, I would fight back. I would defend myself. I wasn't going to put up with it. And of course, according to them, you're just an incorrigible, out of control child. No, they were physically abusive.
Right.
And we were supposed to accept that. And I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I had dealt with it since I could breathe. I mean, I was a baby when my father went into the Northern State Hospital because they took me to the hospital. My grandmother worked at the hospital. And the doctor told my grandmother, you either put that son of a bitch in Northern State or I'm calling the sheriff. So I had put up with it since I was born.
Wow.
I was 2 years old the first time the man tried to drown me for wetting the bed. I can still describe the house. My mom would even tell you, that's true. I can still describe the inside of that house.
Wow.
So, I mean, these were things that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And, I had enough. I had enough of the physical abuse. I was a kid that just wanted to be a kid, just wanted love and attention, and some acceptance. I never got it at home. The only way I got acceptance was I was always the best athlete. I never lost a foot race in my life. I was the best baseball player, the best football player, the best basketball player. At Flying H Boys Ranch, there was only one guy ever could keep up with me in a foot race, and that was Randy Hewitt.
Wow.
Which, when I saw his name on the deal and his comments, I thought, you little shit. Don't you remember? Because Reverend Hires used to hold him down and do whisker burns on his face. You know what a whisker burn is?
Mm-mm.
It's a man with an unshaven face, and he puts his unshaven face up against a kid's smooth face and rubs as hard as he can. It's like getting sandpaper on your face.
Oh, wow.
And he used to do that to Randy all the time, and to the point it would make your face bleed. And Reverend Hires called Randy 3-speed, stop, stumble, and stall. But he was the fastest little shit you ever saw for his size. I mean, his legs weren't no bigger than a tennis shoe, but, he wasn't a very tall guy, but he was fast. He was actually the first fist fight I ever got into there. Mm-hmm. He kept mouthing off, wouldn't back off. And I lived in cabin 3. He was in cabin 2, and came in cabin 3, said something. I can't even tell you to this day what it was, and I went off. I'd had enough. And by the time the counselors guys pulled apart, I had him in the shower stall on the floor, beating the hell out of him in cabin 1. So, when Randy's mouth wasn't, or when his jaybird mouth wasn't overriding his hummingbird ass, he was a nice guy. Yeah. But Randy had a smart mouth. Yeah. But shortly after I got there, Reverend Hires' son Carl started working there. Carl was a younger, dark-haired version of his dad. Mm. You could see, almost the enjoyment in his eyes with taking that. I mean, he would look for reasons to take the paddle to you. I mean, he was a sadistic son of a bitch. The oldest daughter, Betty, she became engaged to Ed Bainter while I was there, and they got married. Ed's dad worked at the Greyhound bus depot in Yakima. Or his dad used to come up and give us haircuts all the time. And he was always trying to trim your bangs real short, but we all outsmarted him. We used to put our brow up real high while he cut it. So he was too stupid to realize it. But like I said, Carl was sadistic. There was Mr. Sturm, there was Mr. Miller, there was Carl, there was Greg, and Ed Bainter, and Mr. Schultz, and Reverend Hires. Those were the men's staff members. When you first come into the property, there was 2 houses. One immediately off to the right, which was a couple of old gay guys that lived there, ironically. And then right next to them was Mr. Sturm's house. Mm. Right next to his house was the milk barns. But as you came in, you went by the first house here, and then there was a road that went immediately to the right. Mr. Sturm's house was on this side, and the Twinkie twins were on this side, is what I used to call them. But then you go down the road a piece, and it would turn to the left. And as it turned to the left, one went up the hill and the other went down towards the lodge. Mm. You went up the hill, Mr. Miller and then Ed Bainter and Betty Hires, who he married, lived up there also. Mm. And there was huge amount of land. I mean, it's a huge property. There's a huge amount of land. I'd say probably close to between 300-400 acres, I'm sure.
Wow.
But we had alfalfa, clover, hay, wheat. I mean, you name it, they had it there. But anyway, then the lower road you come in, and the lodge was straight as you came in. Off to the left was a big building that had a gymnasium in it. And then part of that building was a machine shop, and Mr. Erickson was the mechanic for the farm. And then you went around, the road went around down by the cabins, and then it turned left, or you could go straight past Mr. Sturm's house, and then it would meet up. Then George Madison's house was on the left, and Greg's house was on the right. Then you go down a little bit farther, and it was Reverend Hires' house. Right next to his was Mr. Schultz's house. Reverend Hires drove a gold-colored Buick. I'm a master mechanic. I mean, I remember cars. I always remember cars. Mr. Miller was a former logger. His wife was the most submissive woman I ever seen in my life. I mean, she was the epitome of the submissive Christian wife. You know, I mean, they were so. Man, they were. They were all, what do you call them? The ones with the beards.
Amish?
Yeah, they were almost in their behavior, almost Amish-like. I mean, even the way they would dress and stuff, it was almost like they had a standard of how they could dress. She never spoke unless spoken to. Reverend Hires' daughter, Nina, she was my savior. She was a sweetheart. She was the reason why I was able to get the surgery that I had to enlarge my bladder and make it to where I didn't have bedwetting issues anymore.
Oh, wow.
They sent me to a Dr. Wolf down in Yakima. And me and another kid, Bobby Bishop, both had the same problem. We both went in for surgery the same day. There was, you know, it was a horrible place to be because of the way guys were treated. You were basically used as slave labor. I had to go to the doctors constantly for back problems, and they told them that the issues were is that there was so much pressure on my back because my bone structure was growing faster than my skin tissue. And in spite of that, I would get stuck out. We'd build these rock fences inside, use elk fencing, stick the rocks inside, and it was to stop the floods from coming in. And you're out there sometimes packing rocks this big, you know. Plus you're out bucking bales. Bales, you know, depending on what time you had 3 harvests. Depending on which harvest, weighed anywhere between 70 to 130 pounds apiece.
Wow.
And you're picking them up and you're throwing them anywhere from, you know, you're afraid the truck came up to your chest back in them days. So you're throwing them up a couple tiers high at sometimes. You know, there's usually a couple guys on the back grabbing and stacking, but occasionally, you know, you get towards the back and you chuck them up. But it was like a work camp. It was never, the only way that you got ahead or got any kind of a praise was through studying the Bible. And I have a photographic memory. So for me, it was easy. Whatever privileges they took away from you, you had what was called tokens. And it looked like, I don't know, you're pretty young, but we used to have, when I was growing up, you used to have these punch cards for lunch at school. You know, you'd buy a punch ticket for, you know, each month.
Right.
Okay. Well, actually, they were the exact same tickets. And then you had different color-coded cards, white card, red card, blue card. You could use the tokens to get stuff out of the, what they called the store. The store was a joke. It was about the size of my entertainment center, and it had candy bars and other crap and stuff in it. You know, a lot of bullshit. But the tokens is also how you got to go on home leaves. And sometimes it almost would seem like they would pull your home leave on you at the last minute. They'd find something wrong.
Right.
I mean, like any situation, you had your ass kisses that had their head so far up everybody's ass. If Reverend Hires came to a sudden stop, one of them would end up, he'd have him stuck in his butt. Larry Shirley, he was the one. He was from Ellensburg. him and a guy named Matt Sherman. Ironically, both of them were from Ellensburg. Matt thought he was Adonis. Guy was always out trying to get dark tans. His folks would send him like really nice boots and shit, you know. Larry Shirley was on Revenge of the Nerds, the guy with the dark hair and the glasses with the pocket protector.
Yeah.
Larry Shirley. They went to the same clothing section, I swear to God. There was a guy named Ron Barkley. Ron had no family. I remember the way he got out, he went in the military, went in the Air Force. He had a guy named Jim Powers. He was from Kelso, and just a bully. And there was there were some guys from Kelso and Longview, the Bryan brothers, Russell and Billy, Jim Powers, Ron Powers, guy named Sean Geringer. I'm trying to think. Billy and Bobby Bishop were brothers that were in there. It became like tag team type deals, you know. And it was sort of the same thing like at Scazgoo Branch Hound. It was like they almost encouraged this stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted to watch the fights, and then at the end of it, then they'd knock you on your ass for doing it. But in the meantime, you could stand there and watch. If you weren't involved in the fights, you'd watch. And it's almost like they got a sadistic kick out of it. Religion was crammed down your throat, whether you liked it or not. I'm 51 years old. It took until probably a year and a half ago for anybody to get me back inside the church. As far as I was concerned, actually one very close friend of mine right now, and he's like a brother to me now. Actually, he's the one that I got the house from. The first day I met him, he told me he was a Christian. I told him, get the fuck away from me.
Wow.
That was my exact words. That fast. That's how I felt about it. Because all of these group homes were on the precipice of religion, of Christianity. It was like spare the rod, spoil the child. I didn't see anywhere in the Bible where it said grab as long a paddle as you can and wail on this kid till he can't move.
Right.
You know. Now, in the whole time I was there, I could honestly say at Flying Ace Boys Ranch, I never saw Greg Hires lay a hand on anybody. I always thought that Greg was the more level-headed one. He was sort of he was like the polar opposite of his dad. He was a tall, real good-looking guy, mustache, you know. He was just real personable. Carl, tall guy, dark hair, just arrogant little prick, you know. He was wanting to be so accepted by his dad that he became as abusive as his dad. Mr. Sturm and Mr. Miller, kind of in the middle, you know. Ed Vainter, I think Ed just kind of followed along with the program. He was a nice enough guy, but you know, I think he married. I think he married Betty. I think he was actually a closet case. I actually do. I think that he was. I think that he was sort of confused, and I think he married Betty just because that was what he was supposed to do.
Right.
Nina Hires, Reverend Hires' middle daughter. She was short, heavy set, sweetheart, awesome cook. She treated me like her favorite friend. My 15th birthday, my mother's full-blood Native American, and I'm very proud of my heritage. In storage, I've got tons of Native American art and stuff that I haven't taken back out of storage yet. But she bought me a picture, a 16 by 20 picture of Into the Trail. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Look it up on the computer sometime.
Okay.
Just put Into the Trail. You'll see it. There's a guy there's a warrior sitting on a horse, and the horse's head's down. He's kind of down. He's got his spear up and stuff.
I've seen that one, yeah.
But, yeah, I cherished that thing for a long time. But they transferred me down to Boyville, and I think it was because of the fact I became too big for them to control. So they figured that out of sight, out of mind. Well, they sent me down there, and George Madison ends up taking over as director down there. When I first got down there, they had this guy, Mr. Carpenter. And he ended up adopting one of the guys that was there, a guy named Brad McFarland.
Oh, wow.
Brad was friends with Jeff Stottlemyre. Well, they were all pissed when I came down there because I was a better athlete than any of them. I come down, here's this star athlete from a school they had competed against who was coming down, they knew was going to take their positions. So Brad did everything he could to try to submarine me with his dad, including trying to get me kicked off the baseball team for kissing a girl. I was sitting in a car necking with this girlfriend of mine. I mean, we're just kissing, you know.
Yeah.
Well, back then we called it necking, but, you know, plain and simple, just kissed her. And he punished me for it. Well, then he ended up getting pushed out, and George Madison came down from Flying H, which I was glad. George Madison was a really good guy. I never saw George ever get into anybody. George was, you know, probably average height, dark hair, glasses, drove a blue Chevy station wagon. So, in the style station wagon he drove, it's like the early 70s station wagon. I love that body style. So, they had a Cutlass Cruiser was one of my favorite station wagons, and it's almost the same body style. It had the glass wrap window around the top and stuff. But, like I said, cars do it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's how I make my living. So, but I got down there. I started excelling at sports and stuff again down there. My first day at school there, I ended up beating up the school's favorite wrestler. I was in the lunch line. His name was Inocencio Areola. And him and this guy named Rene Marino, they were best friends. They decided they're going to cut in front of me in the lunch line. I'm the new guy, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mess like that. And I grabbed a little shit and threw him back. Asked me, who the hell you think you are?
Right.
And they decided they were going to both try to jump me, and I ended up whooping both their asses. And I got in trouble for that. Well, all I was doing was protecting myself. I didn't get in trouble by the school. The school investigated and found out I didn't start the fight. But I got my ass kicked when I got back there. Well, then, after Mr. Madison came down there, they hired a guy named Bill Thornton. Strongest dude I've ever met in my life. Loved music. He had done some time in prison for killing a man in a fight with his bare hands.
Oh, wow.
He was probably about your height, but this guy, I mean, his arms were the size of my legs. His arms were tree trunks. His wife was this little quiet thing, a little mousy type named Vicky Thornton. And although you could see she had a temper, you know, occasionally you kind of see it. But she never came at me. But he gave me a Gibson Les Paul guitar that my brother stole from me. And it still kills me to this day. I love that guitar. When he gave that to me, I would sit there for hours and hours. Because I've always had a great love of music. I mean, my kids, my family, my friends, everybody would tell you, you can't throw a musical quiz at me and beat me. I will beat you every time. Music and sports, the only thing, and cars, that's it for me. Well, motorcycles, but I've been riding since I could walk. But he took me under his wing, and he was involved. He was a kung fu master, and I used to work out with him down in the gym. Well, Boyville Boys Ranch was no different. It was you were a slave down there, the same as you were up at Flying H. At Flying H, I mean, they drag you off in winter cold, and you're hauling out logs. You know, huge logs and stuff. The adults run a chainsaw and stand there. You got kids who can barely. I mean, it takes sometimes two kids at the same time to move one piece of wood. They're so heavy, and these guys, you know, they're warm. They're standing by the trucks and shit, and you're freezing your ass off. I remember one year up at Flying H Ranch, I'd gotten in trouble because I got caught kissing a girl at school. I got a girl named Sherry Mondor. It was the day I was leaving to go for my surgery. I was standing out front, and I was kissing her out front when they pulled up to pick me up. I get out of the hospital. Once I get well, they're going to put me on. I'm getting in trouble for it. Well, it was middle of winter, and I'm outside working and I'm sub-zero temperature. I mean, it was below freezing temperatures and shit. They don't give a shit. That time, I did get kicked out of school, got into a fight at school, and it was in the winter time. They stuck me out there, and to keep from getting stuck out there in the winter, I took a hammer to my foot in a metal shop and broke my foot.
Wow.
Because I was tired of it. I mean, I remember another time they stuck me out there because of the fact I had stuck up for myself against the counselors being abusive to me. They stuck me out right behind the lodge. They built a root cellar, for potatoes and stuff. And I'm the one that dug the damn thing. In the middle of winter, you're out there with a pickaxe and shovel and stuff. Now, that was some hard shit to dig. I mean, I can remember digging fence posts out there. You had steel pry bars that are as tall as I am, trying to pry the rocks apart and stuff. Because it's all rock and stuff, it's dry dirt and rock, and you're out there, you're either out in extreme heat or extreme cold, one way or the other. They don't care, They never really wanted you to be community active, You were a lot of the kids in the schools accepted us, There was a few that ostracized us. I mean, I was smart. I dated Margie Handshoe, whose brother Matt was the biggest guy in the school. Mm-hmm. Even I was afraid of him. I wore a size 16 shoe.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a monster. But you know what? Here's the thing. He was the gentlest guy you ever want to meet. You just didn't want to get hit by him on a football field. Because you'd start on the 5-yard line and land on the 20.
Wow.
I mean, he was a monster. I hated going up against him during tackling practice or blocking. No. But... as much as us kids would try to be accepted at school, the group home would take it away from you. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the only way you had any privileges is that you had to absorb that. That Bible was it, The more you could memorize, the more you could get yourself tokens and privileges and get yourself out of trouble. I mean, anytime I got in trouble, all I had to do is hit that thing. As soon as I hit that Bible, that was it. Because I had learned enough stuff on it, I'd test my ass out of it, But they never encouraged the kids. It was always a knockdown, And the only way their solution to stuff was physical violence, or treating you like slave labor. I went back there in, Tyler graduated in 2006, so it was in 2004. I went back there. I coached my son's team to state 2 years in a row. First year we went to Wenatchee. Second year we played in Natchez. We played at the fields across from what's now the junior high, which was the high school when I went there. And I needed to go up there for myself. I needed to be able to move on with my life.
Right.
And so I told my kids, and I told their mom, I said, while we're here, I said, I want to go up there. I said, if nothing else, to look at the place and to try to get past, see if I can find any good memories here. And the sad thing was I couldn't. That was the sad part. I really could not find any good memories there. It's the same when I go by Skagit Ranch Home. Now, Luther Child Center, I do have good memories of. But Flying H Boys Ranch, none. And when I was there, they were immediately suspicious as soon as I got there. Who are you? What do you want? And when I asked them about, the Hirses, they became even more suspicious of me.
Wow.
And then I told them, I said, well, I used to be here. I said, and I was figuring if any of the Hires were around. I said, I had heard that Greg was still around, I'd kind of like to see him. Well, they told me that he was no longer with them and stuff, which was not true, I found out later on. But this Asian guy, he had allowed me to go inside, and I went back to where the lockers were, because the lockers that were there when I was a kid were still there.
Wow.
And I walked in there, and my son was with me, and so was his mom, and I opened up the door on my old locker. There's my name and stuff.
Wow.
That brought me to tears, But it was funny because I looked around the lodge and I'm going, it looked so much different. But I looked around and I was trying to think of anything good that I could remember, and I really couldn't. Mealtime was painful. It was so. I mean, it was like they tried to run it sort of like a military deal, but the only thing is that it was so much more disciplined. The military, they didn't beat the hell out of you.
Right.
In the military, at least when you dropped, I mean, that was it. I remember guys, we had our own they had their own little infirmary there. If you got sick, you never stayed down in the cabins. You had to go up, and right behind where the little store thing was at the front of the lodge, there was hospital bed back there that you'd stay in. And I remember some guys, man, to get out of punishments and stuff. That's what they did, you know. But I mean, when a kid, you know, when a 14-year-old kid breaks his foot on purpose, so that I don't have to get stuck out in the freezing winter,
right?
Because the temperatures are so intense. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, that's pretty bad. But you know, when I went back the last time, I looked around and I thought about it. I could see all of us out there. When we used to play football right out front of the lodge and stuff, there was a little creek that ran from the pond right through, and that was one end zone, and then the road was the other end zone. And also when we had foot races, that was start finish line.
Yeah.
But you know, those were the only really good things I remember during those games. You know, because we were kids. But inevitably, I mean, it would always come back to a bad memory, because I distinctly remember one time we'd had a foot race, and I already knew I was going to win, and I knew who was going to come in second. It was Randy Good.
Mm-hmm.
Right afterwards, Reverend Hires grabs a hold of Randy and does the whisker burn to his face.
Oh, wow.
You know, and you could see the tears well up in Randy's eyes and stuff, and you see the pain on his face. And then I sit there and I read this crap on the internet from him. You act like it was the goddamn spa resort. What the hell are you thinking, you know? Where were you, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. The rest of us, I mean, I've ran into other guys that were there when I was, and we don't have no good memories, you know? One time, the Flying H, we were, like I said, they raised hay, alfalfa, clover, all that. Well, when you're baling, you have to have somebody go behind the baler. And what they do is they walk behind with a pitchfork, and the hay that doesn't get picked up by the baler, you flip it over into the next row.
Mm.
That way it gives the baler a second chance. Well, that day it happened to be my turn. I mean, because you did everything. You were slopping pigs, you milked cows. I mean, you did everything. You know, which I like that. I mean, I love doing, even moving irrigation pipe and crap. I used to love it, because we get out there, we made a contest out of it.
Yeah.
You know, who could move them the fastest. So I never lost. But, you know, when you got put into a work chore that was a sense of responsibility,
Yeah.
it made you feel like a normal kid. It was when you were stuck out there doing shit that no grown man wanted to do. But anyway, I was falling behind. Mr. Schultz was running the tractor with the baler behind it. And there was a lot of rattlesnakes there. And I went to flip one, and rattlers, as they grow, they lose their skin. That's how the rattles are. I mean, those are different times that they've shed the skin. This one had 11 rattles.
Oh, wow.
I'll give you an idea how big it was. Okay. This damn thing went to lunge at me. I hit it with the pitchfork, got it down, took the pitchfork, knocked its head right off. Schultz stops the tractor, gets off, grabs me, throws me back, takes the pitchfork, and he's screaming and yelling at me because I just bent his brand new pitchfork.
Oh, my God.
Well, I was pissed, and I grabbed the pitchfork back, and I bent it back, and I said, "There's not a damn thing wrong with it." I said, "The rattler could have nailed me," and he hit me. And then took me up to the lodge and proceeded to wail on me with a paddle.
Wow.
You know, excuse my language, but you're more worried about a fucking pitchfork than me getting nailed by a rattlesnake? Kiss my ass. That's like, at that same section back there, that was the section that was behind his house and Reverend Hires' house. Down there, they used to have what was called the baptismal hole. Reverend Hires would baptize people down there. Now, my friend Lynn Strauss, who I got this house from, so he asked me about getting baptized, and I told him I didn't want to, because I still have bad memories.
Right.
You know, I equate baptism to that place, and I equate that place to all the crap I went through. I was in an environment, you're supposed to be taken care of by these people.
Right.
They're supposed to be helping you. And instead, they're more abusive than your damn parents.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't tell my mom because she was physically abusive. You know, I asked her years later, I go, "Would you have believed me?" No. She wouldn't have believed me. You know, she was always telling me I was a habitual liar when I was a kid. I lied to keep from getting my ass kicked.
Yeah.
That's not habitual, that's self-preservation.
Right.
You know? So why in the hell would I want to tell you And then even when I did ask my mom about why she did the things that she did to me, or allowed the things that happened to me that she did, well, those were the times. Fuck you, those were the times. You had 4 other kids you never did this shit to.
Right.
I didn't go to school with any other kids that were getting wailed on so bad and beat up so bad that they were unrecognizable.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that's bullshit. That's not how you treat people.
Right.
Period. You know? The thing of it is that, you know, I mean, it's like when I was down there, and when I got transferred to Boyville Boys Ranch, which was still, like I said, controlled by Flying H, George Madison took me to go get some dental work done. Well, they used nitrous on me, laughing gas. I was so foobarred when I came out of there. There was this contractor who was out front pouring a cement slab for a sidewalk. I walked right through his cement.
Oh, no.
At first he was pissed until he realized I was stoned on nitrous. And Mr. Madison got me cleaned off and stuff. And when you're coming down, you get a massive headache from that shit.
Yeah.
Well, at Boyville Boys Ranch, they had this, we used to call it the atrium. You'd come in, it was a room probably about from this end of the fireplace over of my house here. So, what, 16 by 18? And it was, other than the front door, the rest of it was floor to ceiling, separate windows. Wow. Okay. And there was 3 couches in there at that time. There was one that went along the front by the door, the one I was on, which was by the other wall, and then the one along the back wall as you walk in towards the dining room. And Mr. Madison told me, he said, don't worry about your chores and stuff, you know, we'll get somebody else to do it. Because I fed the horses and moved irrigation pipe and stuff. And I loved doing it.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to do it. I actually enjoyed it. So I had 2 horses there. And anyway, I'm laying down, and this George Staley, he comes in. Little short, bald-headed, little peckerhead. Kind of looked like, what's his name from Mary Tyler Moore? Ed Asner. And he tells me to get up and go out and do my chores. And I said, Mr. Madison said I don't have to because I'm coming off of this laughing gas crap. And I said, I got a massive headache. I don't care, man. We need some help. You get up there and get your ass out there and do it. And he goes and grabs me by the hair. That was it. 16 years of rage. I had lost it. I went through through the window with this dude out into the ground and was wailing the shit out of him. If they hadn't got me off him, I probably would have ended up in prison for killing him.
Wow.
I mean, I had all these years of rage. I just had enough, you know. And I'm wailing on this guy saying, it's the last fucking time you people will ever touch me.
Right.
They sent me home. They told my mom it was because I was too old to be there anymore. Until later on when she found out the truth was that they couldn't control me physically anymore. I was too big.
Right.
Because they tried to kick my ass and I could kick theirs. And I was not going to take it anymore. The only one who could have kicked my ass would have been Bill Thornton. And he would have never done it.
Right.
In fact, he defended me over the whole thing. But I just had it, you know. I mean, you take constant abuse. You know, it was never in me.
Right.
You know, you tried to be a normal kid. You know, I've spent the rest of my life always wondering what it was I did wrong. You know, and kids shouldn't go through that.
Right.
You know, my mother and I haven't spoken in 5 years, and you know, it's the same thing with my mom. That what I wanted out of the boys' home, I just wanted to be accepted for who I was. I didn't want to be hit. There was other ways to deal with the kids. One, you don't make kids be slave labor.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've worked in Alaska in the harshest conditions known to man. You know, and some of the times it felt when I was up there and I'm working out on board a ship and I got 40-foot swells and 100-knot winds coming blowing at you and icicles blowing up your ass. You know what I remember? I remember Flying H Boys Ranch.
Wow.
That's what I remember. That's what goes through my mind. I mean, the problem is I can see that place like it was yesterday. Both the lodge and the cabins were barn red. House up on the hill that Mr. Miller lived in, 2-story house, barn red. Mr. Sturm's house, light tan. Reverend Hires' house, George Schultz's house, white. I mean, I still see all this shit in my head. Why should I, at 51, almost, I'll be 52 pretty soon. At 52 years old, why would you want to remember shit like that?
Right.
It's just, and then I thought, I got it with trying to get myself back involved with the church and stuff. I thought I got to move forward, and that's when I found your site. I thought I want to, see if Greg Hires is still there, and I see that he's still doing the counseling thing and stuff. His address is Flying H, so Greg must be, I'd say probably in his late 60s by now. So I don't know. And his sister Betty, she was the one that was younger than him, and she was next in line. And then it was Nina, and then Carl, and then Connie. Or no, was Carl the youngest? Connie had leukemia. I don't know if she's still alive. Carl is an insurance salesman in Vancouver. I looked it up. I don't know where Nina is. I can't find anything about her. I wished I could. My whole thing was, here's my thing. If you do wrong to people, you need to go back and make it right.
Right.
And that's the one thing I've tried to do through my life. And the people that were good to me in my life, some of them don't even remember the things that they did that were good to me, but they were things that were important to me.
Yeah.
That single picture from Nina, I mean, almost 40 years later, that's still important to me.
Yeah.
If I could ever find another copy of it, I'd probably buy another copy, just because it reminded me of that point in my time. There was a gal that worked down at Boyville Boys Ranch named Sue. She was a cook down there, tall, heavy-set blonde gal. She took me under her wing. I always seemed to attract the female counselors. It's funny because, I mean, even my family would tell you that. Every place I was at, there was always a female counselor that stood up for me. Flying H, or except for Luther Child Center, there was a counselor named Frank Anderson. He used to go to all my baseball games and stuff with me. Photography was his other love, and he took a lot of pictures of me and stuff. And we spent time together. We worked on bikes together and that. And he played guitar. He was teaching me how to play guitar, and just a really nice guy. And then when I was in Skagit Group Ranch Home, it was Stan's wife, Marge. And you've seen Northern Exposure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're from Roslyn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I can remember going over there when I was in Skagit Group Ranch Home and riding dirt bikes up and down the slag piles and then go hiking in the mountains over there. Because Stan and Marge were from there. Their son used to own a restaurant there. I want to say, I think it was called Sebastian's at the time. But now, I mean, I do have some good memories of being over in Roslyn. I remember Brett Lehman. We were lighting farts, and Brett had a hairy butt, and he lit his ass on fire. I can still remember that. I see it like it was yesterday. It's funny as hell. And I did get Stan had his moments. They had a place in Renton too, and we go down there, and he taught us how to shoot. He had some high-powered rifles, and he used to line up paint cans full of water, let us take turns shooting and stuff. And then he had a old Army Willys Jeep over there in Roslyn that he used to ride up the slag piles. And I remember one time we were over there, he was rebuilding the engine, and he let me help him. So,
cool.
Because I always liked working on stuff. I always liked working on cars and motorcycles and stuff. So, I mean, it's funny. I mean, even with all the shit I went through at Skagit Group Ranch Home, I still have some good memories there. I have a lot of good memories of the Luther Child Center other than Bill France.
Yeah.
The girl I fell in love with, the only one I was ever going to marry, the only one I was ever engaged to. I'm the first girl I ever kissed. My first love, her name was Geraldine Costa, former Senator Jerry Costa of the 38th District. So look her up online.
Okay.
So, that's a picture of her. So when you look her up online, you'll recognize her. I lost my little boy 3 years ago,
I'm sorry.
which I don't want to go into, but
That's alright.
Jerry and I were together, and that's her right there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's funny, but we didn't see each other for 35 years, and even though we're split up and things, I kind of lost it after I lost my little boy. I didn't want to be around anybody and stuff, and it pretty much destroyed her and I's relationship, but still in love with her as much today as I was 40 years ago. But we have different directions we want to go. I've opened one auto shop in Bellingham. This is actually zone residential commercial. That garage out there will be an automotive shop here within the next couple months. So I'm working on trying to build that up. And the one I have up there actually has 7 bays. It's huge. It's a $2 million complex, and so I'm concentrating on that. She is the liaison between the women's prisons and the state. I don't know if you remember the lawsuit in 2007, the female prisoners against the state for the sexual assault.
Right.
Part of that lawsuit was there has to be a liaison. She retired she resigned from being the head of the parole board and took the job. So, so 2 different directions, but and it was, her and I, we were able to talk a lot because her father was really abusive. Her father was a little tiny Portuguese dude who I actually think is a really cool guy. I mean, I was never exposed to any of that, but he's nothing now what he was then. He has changed a lot, but when they were younger, there was 3 daughters. She was the oldest, and then the 2 younger daughters, but he was physically abusive to them and their mom. So, but Buzz is real laid back now. So, but for me, in order to settle how I feel about Flying H and stuff, without being able to sit down and talk with Greg and getting some admission from him of his father's, sadistic behavior,
right?
It's hard for me to move on. I tried confronting my mom, never worked. My birth father, the one person I thought would never admit to ever doing anything wrong, never take responsibility for anything. About 7 years ago, him and I talked. And we talked a lot. Actually, we spent an entire trip from Anacortes to Friday Harbor and back on the ferry, a couple hours talking about all the stuff, and him coming to grips with the fact that he screwed up,
Yeah.
And that's the thing that these people, when they do this stuff to you, they don't understand. It's hard to move forward.
Right.
The Bible tells you that in order to be able to move forward with your life, you have to be able to forgive, because if you don't forgive, then that controls you. Well, I'm still trying to learn that portion. I'm trying every day to learn to move forward with it, but sometimes it hits me back. But fortunately for me, I have people in my life now, including the guy I'm buying my business from up in Bellingham,
Right.
who is sort of a mentor to me. Actually, he gave me a book to read. It's a very good book. It's called The 4 Agreements. If you ever get a chance, read it. It's amazing. And since you went through some issues where you were at, you'd find out that book is, especially for somebody like me who is I don't take any shit type person.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I'm a very large man, so most people don't push their luck with me.
Right.
But, I don't like to live my life like that. I would rather people respect me than fear me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what happened to me as a kid followed me later into life, because I was still of the mindset that if you push me, I'm going to tear your friggin' head off. And I've worked so hard, and gotten to points in my life where I was doing great, and then I'd fall back. And I'm I've been alone for the last couple of years. It gives me more time to think. I actually like being alone. One, because as you can see, I'm very anal.
Yeah.
Things get put out of place. I don't deal well with roommates and stuff. And, I don't want to date because the only one I want to date, we're not really speaking to each other. But you find that even the little nuances in your life as you grow up affect you in small ways. Through the boys' home systems, everything is so regimented. Everything has a place and everything in its place. If it's not, I mean, it was military-like in its structure. I mean, like with your beds being made, that sort of stuff. At Flying H, you had lockers, and you went through inspection. You know, and if shit was off, you were in trouble. Mm-hmm. You know, but you know, I give you a quick Reader's Digest version of how I feel about this. I coached ball here in the Valley for a lot of years, baseball and basketball. Every kid and parent that I ever whose kid that I coached, I get nothing but praise from. And it's because of the fact that you have to look at coaching kids in the same way that you should when you're raising kids. Is you want the kids to understand what they've done wrong, but you also want them to know that you care, that you do love them, and that it's not the right thing to do, but this is what you need to do. But you also praise them.
Right. You
can't continue to turn them down. You talk to anybody, my family included, about how I was with Christian. Everybody used to get so pissed at me because I know I wouldn't get angry with it. I would always tell him no to things he wasn't supposed to, but I'd tell him, say, you know, Daddy loves you, but you aren't supposed to be doing that.
Right.
You know, but I would put the emphasis on the thing. I put everything into him that I wanted for me.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, even his mom used to say, you know, you let him get away with too much. No, I didn't. He never, Christian wasn't an obnoxious kid. Everybody loved that kid. You know, you couldn't go anywhere that he didn't make friends. You can take him into a prison full of mass murderers, and they'd all be laughing and smiling by the time they spent 5 minutes with him. But I think it's because I spent so much time with him and giving him all the things I never got.
Right.
Now, I didn't do that with my older kids. I wished I would have. I wasn't around. I wasn't responsible though. I didn't want to be a parent because it was responsibility, and I was actually afraid to be a parent. I mean, Christian came along when I was 43 years old. You know, by then it was easier for me to do. I mean, I had dealt with kids so much by then. He was easy.
Yeah.
You know, and to me it was like, okay, this is God giving me my chance to be what I wanted somebody to be to me.
Right.
So, and that's what these group homes don't understand. These kids, if they're acting out, there's a reason.
Right.
Find a reason. There's got to be a way to figure out how to get around it. You know, every kid's looking for something. You know, you can't dope kids up, which is what they do now.
Right.
You know, that's the solution now. Back then it was beat them to a pulp. Now it's dope them up.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the other thing. When I was over there in 2004, that guy that I talked to, he told me they still use corporal punishment. They didn't say anything to him about it, but I can tell you, my kids, when they were standing there, and my kids' mom, they knew I was pissed. I wanted to, as we drove out of there, I told them, I said, I wanted to wail on that guy so bad and tell him, how the hell do you like it?
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is that I read how they're supported now. They're supported through churches. You know, I wonder how many of these parishioners would continue to want to support them if they knew how they actually treated these kids.
Right.
You know? But the only thing is that people don't want to know the truth. They don't want to, they don't want to see the harsh realities. It's like those commercials you see about the starving children and stuff.
Yeah.
People turn the channel. They don't want to see that. You know, it's a harsh reality. Whether you like it or not, it is a reality. I mean, we have children dying every day in this country from starvation. A lot of people are so stupid they don't even know about it. You know, they don't want to know about it. They don't want to know the truth.
Yeah.
You know, let's just throw money at it. You know, but the thing of it is if it was their kids that had to go into there and their kids were getting brutalized or treated like that, no. You know, and now those kids aren't even going to public school.
Yeah.
That's messed up. How do you
Yeah.
expect them to act in society if you don't expose them to it?
Right.
You can't correct them for the mistakes they're making in society. They got put in there because they're making mistakes in society. So what do? You lock them up. You put them in jail.
Right.
You know, basically Flying H is turned into a prison with a river running through it. You know, I mean, you can escape. They'll just drag your ass back or send you to Echo Glen or Cascadia or one of the places. I don't know what the hell they got now, but that used to be the places. So and then they just lock you up. You want these kids to fit into society, you have to expose them to society. And when they make the mistakes, you need to figure out how to change those mistakes. You can't just hide them from the problem.
Right.
You lock them up. The kids haven't committed any crimes. You know, I read they have requirements for what they'll take.
Yeah.
They can't be hardened criminal types and shit. These are just kids with some behavioral issues. Well, if they're misbehaving in the school system or whatever, so what? You pull them out?
Right.
You work with them. You try to find out why are they misbehaving.
Yeah.
You know? It's a bullshit deal. But that place, the fact that they're still doing what they did back then, that just irritates the hell out of me. You know, I just think that it's got to get stopped.
Yeah.
You know, the thing of it is that one thing I don't wholeheartedly agree in is that abusers become abusers. You know, if you're abused, you become an abuser.
Right.
That I don't wholeheartedly agree in. Because I was abused, I'm not an abuser.
Right.
I don't beat up on kids and women and steal little old ladies' checks and that kind of shit.
Right.
You know. But as far as going toe to toe with any guy, yeah, unfortunately, you know, I'm still working on that. So I actually have a lot of friends that work with me on it. But I've had a tough last couple of years that I said the loss of my kids' mom, and then the loss of my little boy, lost the woman, you know, I was engaged to be married, lost my home, lost her, lost everything. I was living in that motorhome you see out back. I was living in that motorhome at my best friend's house for 2 years. So, but part of my process of recovering is to try to deal with some of this stuff. But the only thing is that nobody wants to talk about it. You know, let's sweep it under the rug, act like it doesn't exist, and you know it's wrong. I mean, when I was with Geraldita, it's just the same thing. I mean, I've seen a lot of things in government that you hear. I mean, you see them on TV, you know, in a movie.
Yeah. And
you think, yeah, it's just a plot line. Bullshit. That stuff really exists. I saw some shit that, you know, I'd love to open my mouth, but the only thing is I'm afraid it would affect Geraldita if I did. Mm-hmm. So I keep my mouth shut because I love her and I don't want it to affect her.
Yeah.
But 'cause I'd be afraid that they'd come back after her because they couldn't get to me. Mm. But here or there, they'd try to figure out some way to screw with me through my business or something.
Right.
So, you know, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, they either cover up shit by just not talking about it or throwing money at it, which in your case, they're throwing money at it by shoving a bunch of lawyers out there.
Yeah.
You know, God forbid that there are people that help them finance all this crap and get to know the truth. So, yeah, how would you like in your church's newsletter? Yeah, Flying H Boys Ranch, supported by your dollars, help send an abused child to college, you know, whatever. You know?
Right, right.
I mean, you know, somewhere along the line, the cycle's got to be broken. You know, this one thing, like my son Shad, him and his wife, they just bought a bar and casino up in Culberson, Montana. Mm. And they've been doing well for themselves. They had a pawn shop, grocery store, and laundromat and stuff. And, you know, Shad came from nothing. His mom never had anything. His grandfather had never been nothing but a bum. Sherry pretty much lived off child support from 3 kids for as long as she could. But now she's doing okay. She's a teacher and stuff. But I mean, I had nothing. But I've worked even as a kid. I don't know how. You know, that's the one thing with me is I always had a strong work ethic. I didn't mind working. It was being forced to be out in temperatures that you wouldn't put an animal in.
Right.
And, you know, and being treated like an animal. You know, I mean, it's kind of like athletics were back in those days. You tell a coach, I need some water. Water's for sissies. You know, now you got players, you know, it's required. You got to give the players water because you had players that were dropping dead from dehydration.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of the same thing. You know, you got kids that are turning on society and stuff because they couldn't get at you, so they got to get it. They got to get back at somebody else.
Right.
You know, I think about that sometimes. How my life would have been had I not had I grown up. I mean, let me back up for a second. I'm glad I wasn't raised by my mom because both my brothers are dead and both my sisters are fucked up.
Wow.
I got one sister that both sisters are bipolar. One of them's married to my stepbrother, who's a level 3 sex offender.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So both brothers are dead from drugs. You know, so I'm glad that she didn't raise me, but at the same time, if I could have been raised in a situation, if my mom would have let my grandparents take me like they wanted to, my life would have, I know my life would have been different. I would have, you know, I would have gone to college or something instead of getting into trouble. And, you know, I mean, I played ball and stuff after high school, but, you know, but I probably would have made different choices. I know I would have made different choices. I would have been different towards people. You know, they say that the first 6 years of a kid's life are the most influential. Okay, I had Christian for 6 years. That kid never knew anything but being loved. You know, like I said, I ain't bragging because he was my kid, but you talk to anybody that knew him. He was the most vibrant child you ever wanted to meet. I mean, he loved everybody, and everybody loved him. You know, you take a look at that picture frame down at the end down there. That was us at Disneyland, and him with my El Camino. That's the way he was all the time. The way you see him in those two pictures, that's how he always was.
Wow.
You know, and I think that, you know, when a lot of these kids, man, they're acting out because they're just not getting any love. You know,
Right.
and when I was a kid, they used to tell my mom, you say, well, you know, bad attention was better than no attention. You know, yeah, it was, because I was ignored. I was shuffled off to the side. When she would wail on me, she would sit there and tell me how much she hated me, wish I was dead, that I looked just like my father, and I remind her of my father. Well, the fact that you got issues with that peckerhead, that's your problem, not mine.
Right, exactly.
So you take it out on me? The reason why I ended up who I was because she was taking out her frustrations on him. You know? If you would have just gave me the love and affection that I wanted, Christian was a hyper kid. Just like me. Mm-hmm. But the only thing is that Christian that kid was never spanked. He was never screamed at. His mom did, but his mom she was an alcoholic and drug addict. That's what killed her. But, and she very seldom did. But, you know, he never knew anything but being loved by everybody. You know, Tyler was 16 years older than him. Tiffany, 18 years older than him. So, you know, he had a brother and sister who were more like parents. You know, so I mean, all he ever knew was to be loved by everybody, and
Right.
he reciprocated that constantly. When Geraldine and I were together, Geraldine was never able to have a kid. She had emergency hysterectomy when she was 29, and she got to be a mom for 2 years. When I lost Christian, that's kind of what did it to us, because he was my child, but she knew what it was like to be a mom now. So we both felt that strong loss. But our first New Year's together. Our first Christmas together, it was funny because Geraldine didn't like Christmas. She hadn't celebrated Christmas since her mother passed away.
Wow.
And Christian and I, we loved Christmas. Christian and I were decorating the tree, and he walks over and he grabs her hand and he walks her over to the tree. Said, "It's okay." And that was it.
No.
We had a New Year's Eve party that year. And for Christmas, him and I remodeled the master bath the way she wanted it.
Mm.
I mean, did it all up. It was all for her. It was her sanctuary. Beautiful clawfoot tub, you know, all new paint and design. I mean, it was gorgeous in there. All the things that she wanted. And as guests came into the house, he would show them his bedroom and his toys and stuff, and then he would take them in like he was, you know, taking you on a tour. You know, show you what, you know, Daddy and I did this, you know, and he talked about where we bought this and that, you know, and I mean, he just that type of person. And that, you know, I was the same way. I just wanted attention.
Right.
And I look back and I see some of these kids that were in there, and it was the same thing. A lot of these kids weren't in there because they were in trouble. It was because they just, you know, you'd see their parents when they'd come to pick them up, and the way the parents would act and stuff, and, you know, it's almost like it was a chore, you know, and that's the sad thing, man. They don't even know these kids.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can tell one of these kids, I used to hate, was when counselors would sit there and say, I understand. You understand? Okay, let me know, when's the last time somebody tried to cave your head in?
Right.
Well, never. You know, has anybody ever tried to drown you? No. Anybody ever beat you to a pulp where you're unrecognizable? No. You know, anybody ever slammed your head into a door until you dropped to your knees? No. What the fuck do you understand? Excuse my language.
That's all right.
You know? You don't understand. You don't have a clue what these kids are going through. They never got to know us kids. You know, when a child acts out, there's a reason.
Right.
You got to find the reason and take care of the problem. You can't beat it out of the kid. You cannot run him into the ground like a drill sergeant or beat it out of him and expect. Kids are resilient, you know, but the resilience kind of gets lost when you feel like you're in the South on a chain gang.
Right.
You know, it's almost like being down in Phoenix and your parl's running over your ass all the time.
Yeah.
I lived 6 blocks from that jail down in Phoenix, so I know all about him. Guy's about as popular as a bumblebee in a nudist camp. But, you know, they just don't get it. And the fact that there is no, you know, as far as they're concerned, there is no culpability. They're not responsible. They didn't do anything wrong. You know. Well, you know, these kids are misbehaving. What do you expect us to do? Find out why.
Right.
You know? What's it going to take to fix this problem? I had a kid that played ball for me, Jared. Jared's mom is actually my banker. But Jared, his father passed away. His father had drug and alcohol issues and stuff. Jared's stepdad, Lee, is a really great guy. His mom, Darcy's a sweetheart. Jared was acting out, having a lot of anger issues and shit in school, in basketball, everything. Nobody could figure out why. Nobody talked to him. You know, and my son and him played on the same team. I coached their team at Lucille Lombarder Grade School. And I asked Tyler, I said, what's going on? I said, do you know? And he says, you know, I think it has to do with his dad. So I sat Jared down and I talked to him, and it did. You know, he was hurting inside. He missed his dad. Yeah. He felt like his dad did this because of him. Oh. You know, and so I went to his mom. I went to Darcy and talked to her. And so Darcy's a really super sweet, good Christian lady, and she talked to him. They got him through it. Now later on, when Jared got into high school, it was too bad because he was one of my favorite ball players. Actually, he was my favorite. Period. Kid was awesome. Him and my son, the madder you got them on the floor, the better defense they played. Oh. I mean, when Tyler was in 4th grade, I was sticking him on 6th graders. You know, that was my boy. And you pissed him off, you could be twice his size, and you wouldn't score a dime on that kid. But Jared, same thing. If you pissed him off, he became more aggressive and a better ball player. Well, after his mom started talking stuff, he did good. Well, when he got into high school, I only found out about a year ago that when he was in high school, he got involved in what we call prescription narcotics. Mm-hmm. Well, he ended up going to jail for 3 years. And the only reason I found out was his mom came by my shop in Mount Vernon and was looking at a car I had for sale out there. And she told me what had happened with Jared and stuff. I sold the car to the kid for about half of what I should have because the only money he had was the money he saved while he was in prison. Mm. But you know what? Somebody helped me out once, and that's the way I feel about it. I'm a pay-it-forward person. But with Jared, I told Jared, you ever need me, you ever need to talk, you ever need to, need some help, man, come talk to me. I'm more than happy to listen.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's all they want. They just want somebody to understand.
Right.
They're not asking you to fix the problem. Just listen. You got two shoulders, man. What, you can't loan one out?
Right.
But, so you got any questions for me? Sorry, rattled on.
It's all right. Let's see. Did they use your name, or did they assign you a name, or use a different name, or a number, or anything like that?
They use your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they have a level system where I know you said the tokens, that they paid tokens?
Well, yeah, different cards. He had a white card. Let's see, there was white. There was, I want to say, blue and orange. But yeah, those were the different levels.
You got different privileges on each level.
Yep.
Did they was it more difficult to earn tokens than to lose them?
Yep. Oh yeah, you lose them that fast. Yeah, you can breathe in the wrong direction. If you pass gas in a downward direction, man, you were going to lose it. So, yeah, they were not. Like I said, like Carl Hires, Reverend Hires' son. That kid, he was a duplicate of his dad. Reverend Hires, same thing. Ed Bainter, who married Reverend Hires' daughter Betty, he was more laid back. He would be more forgiving and understanding. Mr. Sturm and Mr. Miller, I mean, they were those two were so uptight. You couldn't blast a BB up their ass with a cannon. Greg, you never really saw Greg a lot. Greg was more of a counselor, as far as like one-on-one with kids. You go up and go into his office, sit and talk type deal, like a psychiatrist type thing. George Madison, George was a financial guy and directorial type guy. Reverend Hires, we used to call him Kong. I mean, you ever seen the movie Porky's?
Yes.
Remember the PE teacher, Kong?
Yeah.
Reverend Hires, almost same body type.
Wow.
Exact same body type. Same belly, everything.
Wow.
He wore these suspenders and shit, and always had to brag about the fact that, he came from the Hires root beer. I met his mom, Lillian, several times. She was a real peach. So she had a bug up her ass too. But like I said, Nina, man, I really wished I could find her and be able to just walk up, give her a big hug, and say thank you. But like I said, other than Nina, I can't think of. I said, even when I stood out there and could remember and see the faces of all the other boys when we'd be playing football and stuff, as soon as I started thinking about it, the first thing I thought about was the one day when we were playing and Reverend Hires got a hold of Randy by the face and did the whisker burn shit on him. Tried it on me once and I hit him in the nuts. It wasn't on purpose. I just happened to move my arm back, hit him in the nuts, which through all the fat, and I'm surprised I was able to find it. Out of all the ones I was in, that and Skagit Branch on the two most severe. Boyville, I had some good memories. Bill Thornton, riding my horses, playing ball down there. Actually, Bill Thornton more than anybody. I don't know whatever happened to him, but he had a 56. Was it 56? Ford truck. Had a 428 Cobra jet in it. He used to talk about how it fit in there so tight you couldn't stick a piece of paper between the engine block and the steering box.
Wow. So
it was green, had smokestacks on it. I literally watched him one time. His horse would not go into the horse trailer. And I'm not kidding you, by right hand of God, I saw him get a hold of that horse's legs like this, put his shoulder like this in the horse's ass, and push the horse up in.
Wow.
I almost shit myself. I'm like, I'll never piss you off. I was like, man, that dude was, but for as powerful as that guy was physically, he was a cool dude. It was really cool. But the thing of it is, he was a guy that could stand there and say, I understand, and he really could.
Right.
That was the thing. That's what made him click with everybody. Skagit Group Ranch Home, a lot of the boys, they liked Joe Chambers. And part of it was because his wife Linda was this gorgeous Indian goddess who ran around naked most of the time. That and Joe used to take everybody out back into the shop and build pot pipes out of deer antlers.
Oh.
So he got stoned with all of them. But, excuse me. You know, Flying H, Nina, that was it. Like I said, I don't have any, you know, I always can remember Greg being a good guy. So I guess that's one of the reasons why it's frustrating that he would never, if he was still the Greg I remember, he would sit there and go, yeah, I know. I understand where you're coming from. But I don't know. You know, I think that what I've read from his counseling thing and stuff, he still hides behind this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's wrong. You know, it's funny, when my grandfather died, the only thing I wanted was this. That was it. Everybody else went after all his money.
Aww.
And it was important enough to him that he kept that thing since 1932.
Wow.
You know, I always connected with it a lot of times because of the fact that even if you didn't believe, a lot of the verses and stuff make sense with everyday life anyway.
Right.
So now I read this every day, and each day it gives you a different passage to something. Like this morning I think we'll start out with a passage from the Bible, and then what it'll do is it'll give a situation that person went through related to that passage, and then the thoughts at the end of it. And there's you've got 365 contributors to this thing.
Wow.
And there's no two stories the same, and they're not by the same people. But you know, I don't read all this stuff, get involved in it, because I'm not a religious person.
Right.
You know, I am a Christian, but I'm not a religious person.
Yeah.
My friends have to battle to get me to go to church. You know, there's a passage in the Bible that says God listens to those who stand alone rather than those in crowds of thousands.
Right.
And I've always been that type of person. You know, I don't need to go to church. Who the hell do I need to impress?
Right.
I don't give a shit. The problem with most churches is there's so much hypocrisy. That's one of the things that gets me about the boys' homes, is the hypocrisy.
Right.
To me, it's lying. My kids will tell you, if you stood all my kids up in a row and asked them, what's the fastest way to piss your dad off? In unison, they'll all say, lie to him.
Right.
Hypocrisy is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You get these people that go into church, and my grandmother used to call them weekend sinners. They act like total shits during the week, and then figure, I went in on Sunday, I've absolved myself. Bullshit.
Right.
I'm the type of person, if I walked out the door of that church and I seen some guy laying on the ground, disheveled, needing help and stuff, I'm going to walk over and ask him, are you okay? Can I help you?
Right.
I'm not going to be the one who goes, no, Johnny, don't go near there. You might catch something.
Right.
That's the people that piss me off. That's the Flying H. That's the Skagit Group Ranch Home. That's the Luther Child Center. That's the Boyville Boys Ranch.
Right.
That's the shit that I saw, you know. And this whole, you know, justifying what you do by with the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. It don't say nothing in there about a 4-foot-long paddle and two grown men holding you down while some crazy old fart wails on you.
Right.
Show me where that passage is at.
Yeah.
So, and if you can't find it, I'm going to beat you with that Bible. You know, I mean, you get tired of this shit. Plain and simple, these kids have issues. They need help.
Right.
The fastest way to give them help, talk to them. Find out what's going on. You know, sometimes, you know what, something as simple as a hug cures a whole lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a grown man. Like I said, I'm a very, very large man. You don't think I don't break down and cry sometimes? You know,
Right.
I mean, I still got stuff that eats at me. There isn't a second in my life goes by I don't think about my little boy. Not one. I look at my phone, I see him. Anything I look at, I see. So, but you know what? I got to give him everything I never got. So, and I never wanted material.
Right.
All I wanted was some attention and some love.
Yeah.
And that was it. And a lot of times with these kids, that's all they want. Is that so much to ask? And if you can't give it to them one way, they're going to get it to, and they're going to get it another way.
Right.
A lot of times, it's kids crying out for attention or help. I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. Okay, so bad attention's better than none.
Right.
You can turn some of these kids around. You can't cure them all. I mean, it's just like an alcoholic. The pastor that got me to finally go to church, got this dude named Pastor Hubbard. His favorite thing was talking about how people are wired. I'm wired as very protective, for one. Family and friends. My family and friends will tell you, don't mess with them because you're going to mess with me.
Right.
But I'm also very, as you can see, I'm very anal. I'm a workaholic. When the guy I'm buying my business from, when he met me, him and Lynn and I sat down for a lunch meeting. He asked Lynn, he says, if there's one thing about Scott that you don't like that you would change, what's that? He says, the man never stops working. And I don't. Say you like to go water skiing or whatever, I'd rather be working out here in my shop. I got a wood shop out back. I'd rather be doing that. I'd rather be building a bike, building a car, working on my house. When I get off work, normally that's what I'm doing. I turned down going to a movie with some friends because I would rather be at home working on this. Because I look around and I see things that are not complete.
Right.
And I can't stand it. But the only thing is I get to that point where everybody else sees that it's complete, I find fault in it. And I start finding other ways to cure it. So, but a lot of times for me, it's a way of dealing with. I think work makes me happy. Even Biff, the guy I'm buying my business from and stuff, he said that today. He says, I really get a kick out of watching you. He says, man, when you're busy, he says, you're fun to watch. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, because you're always smiling, you're up and you're cheerful. Yeah? Because I don't have to think about anything. I just think about what I love to do.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, when it's on, when the busier it gets, the more on I am. That's when I shine. I'm the best at what I do. I normally work as a consultant for other companies. So I'm the guy that comes in and solves the problems. If they're not making money, I'm the guy that knows how to do it. So, and that's what I love to do. So, and I mean, I can't compete in sports anymore because I'm too old, too out of shape, too fat.
You can bowl.
No, I hate bowling. I'm not a bowler. I actually had a guy one time on a league tell me, he says, if you could harness that power, he says, Jesus, he says, you'd be unstoppable. He said, I've never seen anybody throw a bowling ball that hard, ever.
Wow.
So he says, I've seen guys twice your size. They couldn't throw as hard as you do. He said, man, he said, I don't know what the hell it is. He said, but boy. He said that I reminded him of a bowler named Mark Roth, professional bowler who was known as the hardest throwing bowler in pro bowling history.
Wow.
So I was like, but the only thing is I sucked at it. So I never really got into it. I mean, it was one of those things, if the kids decided they wanted to go, fine, I'll go,
Yeah.
Here's your chance to humiliate the old man, because you can break 100 and the only thing I can do is break my ankle. So in one night, I was trying to bowl with my kids and I hit my knee. And it hurt because I come through so hard.
Yeah.
And I've had 8 surgeries on my right knee.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, not the place you want to hit.
No.
So, but anyway, I don't know what more to tell you. I mean, I hope that you can do something, I would love to figure out a way to get these kids back into society over there. And, it helps them. Pulling them out, it doesn't. you're not solving the issues.
Right.
If anyway, those kids are spending on, they say that criminals they go to jail and become students.
Right.
And then they come out masters at what they do. They learn all their tricks. Well, when you're, these guys in jail and prisons, the things that they come up with, invention's the mother of necessity,
Right.
Or necessity is the mother of invention, excuse
Yeah.
me. I knew I had it right. And the thing of it is, when these kids are trapped there, they're constantly trying to figure out, ways to either get out of there or what. And what it does is it teaches them to become manipulative and mischievous.
Right.
It doesn't teach them how to commingle with other people, because the only society they know is a closed society.
Right.
That's fine if you want to grow up in a commune or be part of a religious cult.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody that is looking at moving forward in your life and becoming a productive member of society, I'd love to see the statistics on those kids that came out of there since I was in there, and see how many of them have actually made something of themselves and how many are dead or in prison.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we just got a report from late 2010, a survivor of a different program that was faith-based also in New York, committed suicide in jail after leaving the program and then trying to return to the program and then getting put in jail afterwards. So.
Well, you know what? I've done jail time. I tried committing suicide 3 times. Twice after I lost my little boy. That was the hardest thing. But the thing of it is that I've constantly had to deal with depression and all kinds of shit. I've seen counselors, everything else. Actually, one psychologist I used to see, actually I'm her favorite mechanic. She doesn't trust anybody but me. She just lives up the road here now. But, I've tried on my own to try to get through all this stuff. My friends will tell you, I have very strong willpower. If I decide I'm going to do something, I do it. It always amazes my friends, it's just like right now. This is the first soda I've had in I don't know how long. I leave them in there so that when Justin's here working. But I started kicking off the sodas and stuff because I want to drop 40 pounds.
Right.
Because I'm having problems with my knees and my back. And I need to drop the weight because I weigh 300 pounds.
Wow.
I'm 6'8", so 300 pounds on me doesn't look like that much.
Right.
But when you start thinking about the damage it does to a 52-year-old body,
right,
especially a body that's been through as much abuse as I have, that's another thing. Is a lot of the physical ailments I have in my life now are attributed to that.
Right.
I started having my back problems when I was down there, rather than them trying to make my life easier and less hard on my back. I've had nothing but back problems since then.
Right.
I've constantly had to fight with them. The thing of it is that the physical scars heal. The emotional scars last you forever.
Thank you.
But in my case, the physical ones have lasted me for years.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, with my back and stuff, if I hadn't been pushed so hard when I was younger, but the thing of it was, the harder they pushed me, the harder I pushed. I wasn't going to let them beat me.
Right.
There's a old Paul Newman movie where he's in prison.
Cool Hand Luke.
There you go. I had friends of mine, that's what they used to call me. You couldn't break me. Yeah, I didn't bend and I didn't break.
Right.
So the problem with them was that I fought back. So I didn't care. The thing it was is I was a young kid and I didn't care if I lived or died. That was the way I felt. And a child shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
There was times I used to lay there in bed and just wish, and I would literally, I know how that kid felt. It's just, I wanted to be dead because I felt like being dead was better than where I was at. And that's wrong, And unfortunately that's transferred on into my adult life. When things have gotten hard, that was always the easy way out.
Right.
I think I might have handled things with my little boy different had I not had that sort of locked into my head already.
Right.
Like I said, after I lost him, I tried twice. So I figure I'm still here. I just kind of look up and go, okay, joke's on me. Why am I still here? It's like somebody said something to me one time about my brothers dying. And I said, you know what? I said, I envy my brothers. They go, why is that? I said, because they're in a great place. I said, I'm still down here putting up with all the bullshit.
Right.
For me, one of the things I wanted to do when I was, as I grew up, was I wanted to go back and be able to do for those kids what wasn't done for me.
Right.
And actually, part of me, when I went there in 2004, was hoping that maybe there was a way for me to go back and be a part of that.
Right.
But I couldn't be a part of that because I don't condone what they're doing.
Right.
If you're still using corporal punishment to deal with these kids, and you're not allowing these kids to be a part of society, then that's wrong.
Right.
I'd be really curious to know how they lost their funding from the state. I don't know how they did, because when I was there, that's how they were funded.
Right.
So, but I think that they lost, from what I understood, they lost their funding from the state because of the fact that they still use means of corporal punishment as a means of stuff, and that was part of it. So, as long as they're supported by the church, they don't really. But the only thing is that, see, places like that, nobody ever makes any waves about it.
Right.
That's the whole thing. Nobody wants to know. People need to know.
Yeah.
It's wrong. The thing with it, it's just, to me, it's rape in another form. A lot of people hide, when something, it's too filthy for people to know.
Right.
That's bullshit, People that do that you abuse a child, somebody needs to take you out back and whoop the shit out of you. Let's see how you like it.
Right.
Get your ass stomped a few times, and I guarantee, or somebody holding you down over a desk, wailing on you with a big ass wooden paddle that has a bunch of holes so you can hear it whistle. You ain't gonna want to do that because you're gonna know that shit hurts.
Right.
So, I almost think that these people thrive on it. I really do. Am I wrong? I don't think so. They would probably say that I am, but I think that they just figure that the easiest thing is just to. Here's my thing. I think I told you about this. Take Brazil. The language there is Portuguese.
Right.
Okay. The Spaniards came there first. Okay. The Spaniards came in and figured that the way that they were going to control them was through threat and intimidation. Well, guess what? The Brazilians got fed up with the shit and they killed all the Spaniards. Okay. The Portuguese came in. They come bringing all kinds of shit that the Brazilians had never seen.
Right.
Gifts. Guess what? The Brazilians went, hey, this shit's cool, man. Guess what? They followed them.
Yeah.
It's how you treat people.
Right.
India, the same thing. Gandhi told them, man, you can't, you got 30 million Indian people. They ain't gonna put up with this shit no more.
Right.
And they got pissed. They got their country back. South Africa, same thing. They got fed up. You guys are the outsiders. You come in here, you've been killing us, threatening us, and everything else. Well, they got their country back. Now they're just all killing each other, but but still, it's the same thing. There's the most famous saying in the world: you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Right.
Okay, so why do you keep dumping vinegar on it? You're making pickles?
Yeah.
What the hell? Let's dump some sugar on here.
Right.
Let's see, I think it was Def Leppard who said that. Pour some sugar on me. Hey, there you go.
Yeah. The one-handed drummer. The one-handed drummer.
Yep. Lost it in a Corvette. Corvette flipped. So, but yeah, I hope that you can accomplish something with this. I think that anybody that makes it through and is able to do something productive with their life is a survivor.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we were raped in a different way. You know, we were raped of our dignity, you know, who we were. They literally tore everything away from us.
Right.
You know, robbed us of who we were or who we wanted to be. You know, and you tell a kid long enough that they ain't worth a shit, and they start to believe it. So, and they use it, and eventually it becomes an excuse for everything in their life.
Right.
You know, these guys that go into court, you know, I mean, that Colton Morris, you know, give me a break. That's an arrogant little prick. He's sitting there in one note saying, well, you know, yeah, I'm sorry and shit. But at the same time, he's being arrogant about how he flew all these planes.
Right,
You're
right.
a cocky little bastard. You're going to blame it all on your mom with fetal alcohol? Bullshit. You know, this kid knew what he's doing. He's a grandstander.
Yeah.
You know, did he have a shitty life with his mom? Yeah, I'm sure he did. Yeah, his mom, it's more than I can say. I don't know what it's like to have that.
Right.
I don't know what it's like to have a family. You know, they took that away from me. My family took it away from me, and so did the boys' homes. So, I mean, for me, being a black sheep in my family would be a promotion. You know, I mean, it's messed up. I don't talk to them. And I mean, to this day, it's funny. They don't know a damn thing about me, and to this day, they still go around and talk shit about me. And they don't know me. They've never been around me since I was 11 years old.
Wow.
But yet, they want to go around and trash me. My mom told me once, I don't know, probably about 7, 8 years ago, that my stepdad, my youngest sister's dad, he was the one that beat me up in 3rd grade so bad I was unrecognizable. My mom and my little sister were trashing me one day, and Denny actually stuck up for me. He got pissed. He told me, he said, you know what, that kid's been through more shit in his lifetime than all of you put together.
Right.
He says, and the only one that's doing anything with his life. He says, and all you two do is sit around here. He says, you two hens do is sit around here and talk shit about him. So, do you even know this kid?
Right.
He hasn't lived around here in years. You don't know anything about him, but yet you sit there and trash him. You know? My mom, I'm 51 years old, still tells everybody I'm an habitual liar. From when I was a little kid.
Oh my God.
Yeah, from when I was a little kid and was lying to protect myself from getting my ass kicked. I mean, here we are 40 years later, and she's still saying the same thing, but she's never been around me. She doesn't know anything about me. I mean, this is a woman who became involved in a gay relationship while I was in Flying H Boys Ranch. Now, I'd never seen anybody gay in my life until then. And she lied to everybody in the community and got pissed because my brother, Ron, my older brother, and I wouldn't lie to everybody about it. But you're going to sit back and call me an habitual liar. But you've done nothing but lie about your life as long as I can remember.
Right.
You know? And it's just, you know, it's bullshit. My stepdad, my mom's last husband, was alive. Geraldine got to meet him and talk to him for a while. He told her the truth about my family and how things were for me before Geraldine met me and even after. And Jay was the only one that tried to be a parent to me. And every Sunday I go to the cemetery. Every Sunday. And I miss him. He was a good guy. Gave me somebody to talk to that understood.
Right.
And somebody that wouldn't let my mom lie. When my mom would lie about me, he would come in and say, no, I was there. I know different.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kills me. I've sat down and I've written my mom the same letter over and over again. And I was even thinking about it today. I still haven't sent it. You know, part of me sits there and thinks, why? It ain't gonna do no good. But my mom's 69 years old, and you know, she's not in great health. And some of the things that my little sister said about a year ago really upset me. And my little sister doesn't pass gas without my mother's permission, because that's the baby. Yeah, my brother Ron, who was the oldest, and Denise, who's the baby, those were mama's babies. And I don't know if my mom knows Denise said some of the things that she said about me. Because I know that my mom would even say that they're not true. But I just don't know why my mom would allow her to get away with saying some of the stuff she said about me. And I've wanted to talk to her and ask her why, but you know, and here's the sad thing: as much as they treated us like shit, we're still here. I am. I'm 51, almost 52 years old, and I'm still looking for that approval. I mean, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, all I want now is the same thing I wanted then. Not gonna get it. You know, but you know, they say miracles happen every day. So who knows? Maybe she'll get visited by 3 spirits. Who the hell knows? You know? Of course, in her case, well, in my sister's case, I know what the spirits would be: vodka, bourbon, tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah, different kind of spirits. So, you know, it's funny because I listen to everybody, these comedians and stuff, talking about their dysfunctional family. I'm going, shit, you guys are a mild rash.
Right.
I'm like, man, I could tell you stories that curl your hair. I mean, how many, you know, it's kind of like Jeff Foxworthy with his redneck shit. I mean, come on. My sister's married to her stepbrother, who's a level 3 sex offender that went to prison for sexually assaulting children that were his relatives.
Oh my God.
And then she's mad at her kids because she can't see her grandkids, or she can't bring him around to see the grandkids. I'm sorry. You don't see this picture here?
Right.
What's wrong? I mean, come on, man. What are you, Stevie Wonder or something?
Yeah.
Come on. It's just, oh. You know, the thing is, my friends will all tell you, I'm a total smartass. I have a smartass line for everything. And it's what gets me through.
Yeah.
Even my mom always said I should have been a comedian because I can come up with them that fast. I mean, I always got a line for everything. And but it keeps me from being angry.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still very angry about what happened to me, and that's what's fucked up. You know, it's 40 years, man.
Yeah.
And I'm still angry about it. But that's because nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
You know, and all I want to do is somebody sit down, talk, and say, you know what, you're okay. It's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. What happened to you was wrong.
Right.
That's, you know, accept responsibility.
Yeah.
I went back, even an ex-girlfriend of mine, Linda Loop, I grew up with her, and I treated her like total shit when we were together. And I honestly say it's the only woman I ever hit. I got drunk, and I knocked the hell out of her. I don't remember it, but, and the thing of it is, she still loved me even after that. Her, I didn't see her for a lot of years, and it always ate at me. And I knew I had to go back and make it right. Because I would have never done that sober.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a drink in 30 years. And I ran into her 4 years ago. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's 4 years. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? Was it? I think it was. I think no, it was 5 years ago. Tina was still alive, and I ran into her in a dollar store. And I told her, I said, you know, I said, I hadn't seen you in years, and I said, and I always wanted to tell you, I fucked up. I said, what happened to you should have never happened. I said, I was wrong. And I said, and I've had to live with that guilt every day of my life. And she actually broke down in tears and thanked me. And then her mother passed away a week later, and I was pretty close with her family until all that shit happened.
Yeah.
And I ran into Linda shortly after that. She told me, she says, you know what? She says, I told my mom that you apologized, and I said, yeah, what'd your mom say? Because I told her, I said, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. And she said, I told you that someday he'd come back. She said, he's a good man. I went, that felt good.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, if you do something wrong with somebody, you got to go back and make it right.
Right.
I mean, I still live with that now. I mean, it still kills me because I absolutely abhor guys that will hit a woman. But I would have never done it sober.
Right.
That's why I don't drink. Last
Yeah.
drink I took was January 10th, 1983, the day I buried my older brother. I got drunk on my ass. Woke up the next day, and a childhood friend of mine's house, in bed with her, and don't remember a goddamn thing.
Oh no.
My car buried up to its axles in her front yard. I went home, threw out all the booze in the cabinet, and never touched another drink after that. So I decided I wasn't going to be like that, and I wasn't going to go out that way. And I was so bad when I was drinking that my family and friends told me, don't come around. I mean, because I was meaner than shit. I was actually 86 for life out of Max Dale's in Mount Vernon. Because Tony told me, he says, you know, I'd known Tony my whole life. Tony said, you know what, when you're sober, he says, you're the nicest guy I ever met. I've seen you give the shirt off your back for anybody. He says, but when you're drinking, he says, you're the most dangerous thing God ever created. See, number one, I'm a boxer. I was a gold glove boxer. I was a 4-time national karate champion.
Wow.
I'm 6'8", and my mother has literally watched me break 2 punching bag machines with one blow.
Wow.
That's how hard I hit. So you pack all that together with tequila, that's a dangerous combination. So it was 3 years before my family saw me. My family, anybody. I left this valley, did not come back in this valley for 3 years.
Wow.
Because if I would have came back after 6 months and said, I haven't been drinking, big deal, don't mean shit. You come back after 3 years and you haven't had a drop. That says something.
Yeah.
And here it is 30 years later. You know, I still haven't had a drop. So actually 29 years, but I have no desire to. And I live across the street from a bar.
Right.
Although that place got some of the best food around. Got great breakfast and killer burgers. But they also make one of the best steaks. Oh, God. Once in a while, I treat myself and go have a steak.
Do you walk?
Well, I mean, I actually go over there quite frequently. I go in, I walk in the door, they give me my Sprite. I sit down there, read a newspaper, and usually go over and have a hamburger or something, which now not as much because I'm trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
So now it's, you look at my refrigerator, it's packed full of fruit and vegetables. And I mean, tonight I had stir fry. So
That's good.
yeah. Well, I love to cook. I was in the restaurant business for a long time. I actually came from my experiences in the boys' home.
Wow.
And between that and my grandmother, that's how I learned to cook. So I ended up being one of the youngest assistant managers in Sambro's history at the age of 17. So I could outcook guys that were twice my age.
Wow.
I was fast, really fast, and good. So, but I love doing it.
Yeah.
I never was very good at settling for second. I've always been very competitive, but I've had to learn to sort of take that away. But it's funny, I teach guys with different companies how to not get angry and stuff over stuff that happens in the shop. And but yet I've struggled my whole life with it. It's funny because I cannot translate that into my everyday life. That's
right.
What's hard. You get me in front of customers and I'm nonstop. I can take the maddest customer you've ever seen and I can turn them into my friend before they leave. But I just can't seem to do it in my everyday life. Somebody, push me the wrong way and I blow.
Right.
And that's wrong. I shouldn't do that. But I'll sit. But the thing is, it becomes personal away from work. At work, when that customer's angry, they're not angry at me, they're angry at the situation.
Right.
And they're angry at the fact that you represent that company. So you're just something to attack.
Right.
Somebody else was standing there, they'd be attacking them. So I teach these guys and gals, don't take it personal.
Yeah.
It's not a personal attack on you. Just stand there and let them vent and then go, okay, sir, ma'am, what do we got to do to get this problem solved? Now, if I could learn to transfer that in my own life, and see my friends see that all the time. They watch me at work and they go, wow. And they were just amazed. I can charm the shorts off the Pope. But in my everyday life, I become very sullen, very quiet. I don't interact. I don't deal well with crowds. I hate crowds.
Yeah.
I don't do good at socializing. With my friends, I'll talk for hours.
Right.
But other than that, no. I go in there, Troy and those guys over there, they'll say, I might say 2 words the whole time I'm there.
Wow.
And that's to them. I don't talk to the other people around me. So people see me in there all the time. And most of them probably don't even know my name. So I can't seem to transfer my professional skills into my everyday life. And a lot of it is because I don't trust anybody.
Right.
I don't have to worry about the customers and stuff that I deal with. I don't have to trust them. But because of this shit, I don't trust them. So, well, let me draw you a real quick map here.
Okay.
Okay. This is the Natchez River, actually the Nile River. Turns into the Natchez once it gets down below. Okay. This bridge going right here. This goes up. This is what's called the Rattlesnake when you get up past here. Okay, when you first come down, there's a house right here. And then this goes down this way. There's another house right here. And okay, and then this goes into a road here. And then there's a road that goes up the hill. Up on the hill, there's 2 houses. Used to be. Okay, here's the lodge. That's the big building you see in the picture. Their offices are upstairs. You first come in, and it used to be like the greeting area and stuff, and the dining hall and everything's all kind of mixed. There's a big fireplace and stuff in there, but and then down here is the cabins. Now the cabins are actually 3 sections. From the front you can't tell from the picture, but they're kind of shaped like this. Okay. There's a pond here. Okay, and that's the cabins. But they're into 3 sections, 3 living sections. And the counselors used to stay in a room it was in the middle.
Okay.
Okay. And you go down the road here, and the road comes all the way back down towards the, and it comes all the way back down towards here, okay, because this goes all the way through, okay. Alright, it's going to be kind of an abbreviated version, but there used to be a house here. That was George Madison's house. There was a house here, and then down at the end was where there was a barn, the field. Let's see, there was a house down there for Reverend Hires and Mr. Schultz. So there was 2 houses down here. And this is kind of just like all rocky area right here next to the river. So, but this is the road going through and stuff anyway that tees off there. But this is just a big rocky area that kind of fishtails around. It's a rough draft, but if I had time I could draw a real nice one, but that's kind of what you're looking at.
Well, thank you. I will conclude this.
Well, if I can get this remodel done, get this shop here done, and I can spend more time jumping between the 2 and actually get some stuff done. But,
okay. Well, thank you, and I think it'll be really good for a lot of reasons. You covered everything that needed to be covered, and also gave some suggestions on what is needed to help kids, so I thought that was really excellent. So thank you. Well,
I'd love to. You know, my way of dealing with it was, like I said, was to coach. I mean, I couldn't be a house parent. Then I was going to work with kids one way or the other.
Right.
And the fact that I was actually able to affect change in their life and help them, it's like building a house, man.
Yeah.
You know? And if these people would just understand, you get so much more of a charge out of turning them around, you know, instead of putting them down.
Right.
My grandmother used to say there's an asshole born every minute and 2 to take care of them. Flying H had a lot of assholes.